Now, martial law has been imposed in 10 Ukrainian regions in what President Petro Poroshenko described as a defensive measure. The announcement comes following the capture by Russia of 3 Ukrainian naval vessels and their crew on Sunday. President Poroshenko has also said he's considering restricting the ability of Russian citizens to enter Ukraine during the period of martial law. And there are reports that Russians have already been denied entry. Well, let's speak with Russia editor at BBC Monitoring in Moscow, Vitaly Sevchenko. Vitaly, we are hearing reports already that some Russians have been denied entry into Ukraine. What more are you hearing?
So far, about 80 Russians were prevented from entering Ukraine over the past couple of days. They reportedly were flying in from Belarus, and the Russian Border Guard Service is saying that they could not explain their purpose of a visit clearly. Now, why are the Ukrainians doing this? Because my calculations show that the number of Russians being prevented from entering Ukraine shot up tenfold. The Russian nationals, they do not need visas to visit Ukraine, and officials in Kiev say they want to make it more difficult for Russia to send what they call their agents of influence or spies or potential militants to Ukraine, which is precisely the reason why conscription age Russian nationals over the past 3 or 4 years were the subject of additional checks at the Ukrainian border. For example, they had to carry an invitation from somebody within Ukraine explaining why they're visiting and for how long they'll be visiting and where they'll be staying, which is also the reason why there are no direct flights between Russia and Ukraine, and all those people who were turned away today were arriving from Belarus.
Tell us a little bit more about how this recent escalation over the last few days has been covered in the media there in Russia.
Now, we have to remember that Ukraine is a country which the Russian media loves to hate. Ukraine is described as a source of chaos and instability and aggression right next to Russia. So today, Ukraine has been accused of being unfriendly and of using invented pretexts for keeping Russians out. The Russian embassy in Kiev has spoken of discrimination and has demanded explanations from the Ukrainian government.
And of course, as we've been reporting over the last few days, this is a conflict that's raged on since 2014. The levels of escalation have differed over that period. How, in general, is Ukraine viewed now in Russia? Just briefly.
The Ukrainian government in particular is being vilified in the Russian media. Today, President Putin, within the past couple of hours, has described the Ukrainian government as somebody who might eat babies, for example, and that just gives you an example of the level of tensions between Russia and Ukraine.
Okay, Vitaly, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks very much for that update there from Moscow.